Guys, my name's Coleman. I'm a designer at Ride Engine, and I'm here to tell you about foil boards. So first, just brief overview of what kind of shape and design you want for your board. You want short. Probably, I'd say the longest that you'd ever go is maybe a 5'2", but around 5 feet would be a starting length for a board. And the reason for that is that the shorter a board is, the easier it is to pump. As you make a board longer, it doesn't like to rotate, so you want to go short. There's some guys that are going really short, down towards like 3'6", but that's not, if this is your first board, that might be a little bit small. Otherwise, you're really just designing the board to make it paddle well. This is one that is shaped up, and so you're basically going for pretty wide. This one's 21, it's about 2.8 thick, very, very low rocker through the tail. This one's only got about a 1/4 inch. The nose rocker is pretty flat too, because the board never really has to fit into the good curve of the wave. It just has to paddle fast, and as soon as you're on the wave, then you're going to be up on the foil. So all the design in terms of the board shape is you're just trying to maximize paddling. So pretty hard, thick rails, a lot of volume throughout the whole thing. And also in terms of the construction of the board, if you normally on surfboards you're concerned about flex, but on a foil board you want all the energy from every pump to get translated down into the foil, and so you want the board relatively stiff. So I'll generally put in a thicker stringer than I might on a normal surfboard. I might do an 1/8 inch stringer. On a foil board maybe I do a 1/4 inch stringer, and then for the glass normally do a little extra, but at the same time you're trying to keep the boards light, and so play around with it. I'll normally do 6'4" deck, 6 ounce bottom, and then an EP like 1.7 pound EPS blank. So the next thing I'm going to explain to you is how to install the box for the foils. And there's the sport's evolving pretty quickly, and everyone's figuring out different ways to do it, and that's great. But I'm just going to explain kind of the fundamental pieces. So the big idea is that unlike a normal surfboard fin, the foil's putting way more load onto the board. And so for that reason, instead of just dropping the boxes in the deck and glassing it like normal, you want to make sure there's something really strong attaching the boxes to the deck glass of the board as well as the glass on the bottom. And by doing that, you basically end up with an I-beam. So it's the glass on the bottom and then a core that's really strong and the glass on the deck. When you do that, if a wave hits the foil or you crash into the bottom or there's some big force on it, instead of it just loading up the glass on the bottom of the board and tearing out, it'll really use every bit of strength the board has and hopefully be strong enough. And so the way that we accomplish that is basically cut all the way through the board and drop in high density foam, normally 6 pound or 8 pound density. And for the foam itself, some guys like using, you can buy basically like bricks of high density foam, but I found that it's easier to use pour foam, so I'm going to explain it with that method. A note, if you're someplace that's really ambient temperatures above 75 degrees, you want to do the pour foam a little bit at a time, maybe 100 grams at a time. Otherwise the heat, it's an exothermic reaction, the heat can melt your EPS. Around here it's cold out, it's like 65, so I just do it all at once. So the first step is to mark where you're going to put the holes that you're going to fill with foam. I am 180 pounds and I like my boxes to start about 7 inches from the tail. For every 10 pounds over 180 that you might be, I'd move them up 1/2 inch, and for every 10 pounds below 180 that the rider might be, move them back 1/2 inch. And the reason for that is that bigger riders need more lift from a given wing, so scooting everything up will do that, and lighter riders don't want to get overpowered by the wing, so scooting it back will give them a little more control. Next is, I made this little jig that I like to use because it makes it quick. It's pretty rough, and so I'll just line it up 7 inches from the tail and draw my lines. I already did it, you can kind of see them. And these, because we're going to be filling them back with foam, they can be really rough. But the main thing is you just want to make sure that they are 3.5 inches apart on, or the center is 3.5 inches apart, so that's 1 3/4 inches off the stringer. Next step is the terrifying one, is you take a saw and you cut both of these out. So I'm going to put down the camera and do that real quick. All right, we did it. The most terrifying step. Cut all the way through the board. So the next thing I'm going to do is take masking tape, cap over one side with the masking tape, and then fill it with pour foam from the other side. All right, so now on the bottom, I've got masking tape capping it off. And on the top, I've also got masking tape, which will, because the pour foam is going to expand out of here, and by having it all taped off, it's going to make it easier to clean it up after. So I'm going to mix the foam and then add it in. So here I have my foam. It's 6 pound, got it on Amazon. And you basically just eyeball it and do 50-50. So, there we go. So as you can see, the pour foam has gone off. It sticks up a bit on the bottom. The tape kept it from going crazy. So now what you do is you take your surfboard shaping tools, leave the masking tape on, grind the foam down so it's flush, and then do anything else you're going to do the board, paint it, anything like that. And then when you're ready to drop the boxes, you just take normal longboard single fin boxes. I like Future Strong boxes. In my experience, they're the strongest ones. And on the bottom of the board, you just drop them like they were normal boxes. And then the trick for the only other thing that's different is at the end, you want to cap both the top and the bottom of the board with some extra material. I normally just use carbon. I'll let it extend out about 1 inch on every side, so a big carbon patch in this whole zone, both top and on the bottom of the board. You can also use glass, but I just don't like the way that the foam looks, so I like carbon because it's opaque. And I've seen other people like use fabric or other things to make it look pretty. So I just explained to you guys how to drop tracks in for like a normal foil surfboard. And that method's good for basically any normal application where the foil is not going to be underneath an extreme amount of load. However, in some cases like kite boards, stand-up boards, or tow boards, the foil could be getting tweaked really hard, and so you need to make it a little bit burlier than the method I just explained. So here, this is a tow board that I have. It's a very small board, but the foil on it's real big, and it's going to be in big waves, and so I want to make it really strong. And the product I'd recommend for that is this thing, which is it's made by Ride Engine. We call it the Shaper's Block, and it's 2 tracks that are stronger plastic and thicker walled than a normal surfboard fin box, and it comes preset into some super high density foam. And the way to use this is, like before, figure out where you want to put it, cut a hole in the board. I already did that to this board. The method that I found works the best if you cut the hole a little bigger, maybe 1/4 inch bigger than this thing is. Cap the bottom in masking tape like I've done there, so you can see the holes on that side, bottom's capped in masking tape. Drop this thing in, so board is like that, bottom of the board's facing down, tracks go in, and then you can pour foam into the gap between the sides and the block, and it'll just lock it down exactly where you want it. And then if there's and then you just shave it down from the top, or if there's a gap between the deck and the top of the box, use more pour foam to fill it up so it's flush. After that step, cap it with a layer or 2 of carbon or a couple layers of glass, like previous method. And then the only other thing that's different from normal is to open the boxes, you use a router. On a normal surfboard fin box, you grind them down when you're sanding the board, and there's that little lip that gets sanded off, and that opens up the box. For these tracks, there's a router bit called a trim router bit. I'll put a close-up of it into the video. But basically, the bit goes in your router, you drill a hole with a normal drill into each box, and then with the router you open it up, And these bits, what they do is they'll cut the glass, but they won't cut through the wall, so that way you can open it up perfectly and easily without worrying about cutting into the side of the track. Yeah, so that's how you make them really strong. Otherwise, for general purpose boards, the first method works great. And yeah, if you figure things out that you think would be helpful, let us know. We can try to broadcast that information to everybody else. And yeah, it's an exciting time. It's a whole new sport and cool things are happening. Have fun, be creative. Hopefully see you in the water, and thank you for watching.